I didn't even know how to hit the go live together button. I'm gonna do like I used to do. Start it off. Let me see. With my mind is God's mind. I'm always reflecting divine wisdom, divine intelligence, and divine understanding. My brain symbolizes like a sounding symbol, the capacity to think wisely and spiritually. God's ideas unfold within my mind in perfect sequence. I'm always poised, balanced, serene, and calm because I know God has provided a perfect solution to every single one of my needs before the foundations of all this man-made mandates and mumbo jumbo. How you doing, Mr. Smith?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Mrs. King?
I'm doing well. Hmm? I am the woman at the well. Yeah, it look like I'm gonna have zero for a long time. Um, you asked me earlier when you thought I hit the live button, what was the topic? But before we got on here, I told you what the topic would be. So unless you want to change up the topic, what's the topic, Mr. Smith? Want to talk about the Super Bowl on your birthday?
No.
Oh.
Talking about whatever you said the topic was. I forgot, Abigail. I'm sorry. I apologize. I don't remember.
Oh, then we ain't got no topic then.
We got a topic. I just can't remember what it was. Don't act like that now. Just
I'm
go on.
just saying. So
Let's get
now
to
you can
business.
talk about what you want to talk about.
No, we said Revelations. We were talking about the serpent and Adam and Eve,
Oh, okay. So you remember now.
the relevance of that. What just come to my mind?
I said, what is deception when it comes to Adam and Eve? What is the deception in the in that Genesis story? Now, before we go into the Genesis story, my take on Genesis, the first five books, Moses. Moses did some flipping the script when he stepped off the pyramid after he committed his crimes and his murders, and he called himself drawing a lot of people to follow him. He created his own um, reflection uh, of Egypt. That's my thought on it. Now I could go deeper than that because the pyramids over there is nothing but tourism, a tourist site. It's not the original um, PowerPoints that was standing, and all of the original pyramids were over here. That was the new Earth. Um, but back to Genesis and his creation of the Genesis story, because apparently he was not there in the beginning.
Who wasn't there in the beginning?
Moses.
He
Moses was
might have
not
been. You never know.
there to talk to Adam and Eve. Who had the camera watching the Genesis story? Who was standing there to have a camera rolling or taking down notes to hear Adam talk to Eve, to hear God walk in the garden and all that?
Cain.
How if Cain wasn't even born?
Well, I don't
And
know then.
the first five books of the Bible was written by Moses. Again, my take on Moses is that he carried all, he took and flipped the stories from Egypt that he heard or learned and wrote those 5 books. Somebody wrote them, whoever Moses is. If they say Moses was Akhenaten. So uh, people tend to forget that Moses was a prince of Egypt, and all of a sudden he gets the gift to know and write the Genesis story. It's tell all the things that he heard God say. Which thinking?
I mean, at the time, God was here in this world. Well, so, how else would he know God? God let him know.
Okay, so God let us all know a story. So we all have a Genesis story, right?
Conceptually, yeah. More metaphorically, yeah.
So you believe on the words of Moses?
I believe the entire Bible. If things were set in a defined structural way, which integrity is strong, that the Bible itself will manifest itself. But the word is only as powerful as the people
Well, the people are the
in some
word.
ways.
The people are the
Right.
word. But why would Moses step off the pyramid and take that and a word away?
When did he do that?
When he got off the pyramid, came off the pyramids and wrote the Genesis story, or the first 5 books of the Bible, and wrote all those laws that would put people in a structure, a social construct that still exists today. And then blame it all on God.
Because life, on any level, Abigail, one of the most prominent things about living on any level, sociologically, financially, regardless of how much comfort you can have physically, it's gonna be suffering. You're gonna have suffering. You're not gonna be able to change that about life at any time, any place. Mostly. Until like the return of Christ and things like that. Until you actually fulfill the, something like the Bible actually fulfills itself entirely, you're gonna live with suffering until you just aren't. And by aren't, I mean you just aren't there to suffer.
So you
Until you realize that you have to deal with life as it is, as a people, as humanity has, and not only humanity. Well, it all depends on what you consider life is. Okay, so but the interesting thing about it all, this world, is that everything is tangible. Every walk of life in existence has been reached, has been touched, has been formed into the form of a human being, and we all suffer. We all suffer emotionally. We all suffer physically. We suffer mentally, and in the worst part, in some cases, that has happened maybe once or twice, which should never happen. Which is the purpose of being a human being anyway. Is that you should never suffer spiritually. That's what heaven and hell is. So I think, as far as in a very broad, generalized perspective about life, until you accept the fact that you're gonna suffer in life, that you're gonna sacrifice things that you want for things that you need, time that you rather spend doing certain things, feeling good, for times of worry or stress or the flesh combating against your soul for what the flesh desires besides what, you know, the spirit needs. We you have to, I think over that's not the main purpose of living though. It's suffering is not the very main purpose of living, but that's a very important part of it. Because when you take from the flesh and defy the flesh of its natural desire to want certain things and have certain things and get high. And for many cases, gluttony to lust, you're feeding your spirit as a human being. You're taking in things that nurture you spiritually. And throughout the time you spend on life, that's what it's about. Forward progress. To have the energy, to have the capability to move forward through time and continually do that until the end of time, which time never really ends on many levels based on physicalities, or I guess you could say, now I want to say geometrics, but positionary in the sense of where you are dimensionally. Time never ends. You know what I mean? Because within everything, within every structure, every infrastructure, and every dimensional range, there's a being that represents time, and that being perfect for what its position is and what its individuality, what its individual self being purposely is time. So that creates a sort of friction in life when you realize that your neighbor could be this entity, that your son, your mother, your father, your daughter, your child, your husband, your enemy, your stranger, anybody could be that entity. And something that is
Mhm.
tangible is it's very simple. The drive to change things as a person, as a human being, is so strong in us because of how we want to feel, or because of things we it's a lot of what we do is based on what we want to feel. We work hard to provide for food. We work hard to provide for drugs. We work hard to provide for other means to have sex. We work hard to be hard, to be liked, to be loved. But a lot of things based on what we do is based on how we feel, the feelings that we get. And it's so easy to realize if there's something so great, something so powerful amongst us, something so beautiful, something so pure, which when it pertaining to time, purity is probably the most important thing. So with that being said, if I could change it in life about a person, if I could take something from you and add something to you and unpurify you, and then look up at God as in my imperfection and say, Lord, I'm not wrong, or Lord, I'm wrong, but forgive me. I really don't understand life. Therefore, my suffering, if I've suffered, hasn't taught me that I'm wrong, or that I have nothing to gain from such things in the end. And that's another reason we suffer. To realize that what we put in ourselves emotionally for emotional support, what we put in ourselves for gluttonous reasons, what we put in ourselves for physical reasons, are not the things that are actually push us forward through time. So I think, based on what I'm saying, that that's why we suffer. It's a lesson. It's a propulsion to keep us moving forward. And that's what life is. And even if it never changes for some of us, the fact that you are is a reason to be happy and to be satisfied with life.
So to be happy and satisfied through the suffering, and you think that Moses wrote those laws in accordance to suffering?
Now, according to the fact that you had to realize that you have to be good, you said those laws.
The first five books of the Bible:
What do you mean? Genesis, Exodus.
Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, were written
But those
by.
are found to me. To me, those are foundational things. But to also consider the fact that Moses wasn't present in those times, right? So throughout all that teaching, what you find within the Word of God is great suffering. No matter which place you find, no matter what position you are in, no matter wherever it is, you find great suffering. You're gonna continually find suffering. The law is to govern you, not necessarily to control you, but to govern you, to keep you in alignment, to fortify you negatively, to reinforce you negatively,
But
to know, huh?
according to, let's say, just Genesis alone, suffering didn't come until law came in, the law, knowledge of law came into existence. So we weren't made to suffer.
Well, to say that
And then the
suffering,
thing is
to say
that,
that, but
wait,
to say that, Abigail, is to say that, imagine this as a concept. If you're in the woods, right? If let's say it's a forest or something, right? And if a tree falls, does it make a sound? So if I don't know, they don't, just like Adam and Eve, they didn't know what sin was.
they didn't know what
But yet,
suffering was.
they didn't know what sin was, right? They didn't have the knowledge of
They
good and
didn't
evil.
know what suffering was.
They didn't know what suffering was, but they knew what sin was.
No, sin is suffering.
No, no,
Sin
it
and
isn't.
suffering is correlatedly the same word. Sin is
Suffering
suffering. So
comes,
wait,
suffering comes to a person whether they're a sinner or whether they're not.
we going back
That's
to the
not.
beginning where this is my thought. We weren't made to suffer. We weren't created to suffer. And then once the knowledge of law came into existence of sin, sin is a portion of the law. Then suffering took place. A law was set in place for them to have to suffer. So we were initially made free from suffering and pain. That's why we're going to end with the freedom of suffering and pain, which is terminates law.
Well, how can I be subject to suffering and pain and yet I do not know what sin is? That does not make sense. That is
Sin,
illogical,
that's
right?
because sin and suffering is the same thing,
Right. I
right?
mean, and within the perception of things, that is illogical for me to be
Ex-
suffering and not know what sin is. For me
how do
to
you know
never
what
know what
suffering
sin,
is?
for me,
How
well,
do
for
you
me to
know?
never
Wait,
know
wait,
what's
wait. How do you know what suffering is? We're talking about when law came into existence. Moses created a law. He blames it on God. He says he was there and he walked in the garden and he heard all this stuff, right? But what it triggered was law. Sin, suffering is the same word. So of course they didn't know that they were suffering, and they didn't know that they were sinning. But the sin came in accordance with a law that was placed in order for them to suffer.
see,
You,
that doesn't make
you
sense.
Eve,
That
and
does.
wait, you Eve. Now that you have obtained the knowledge of what sin is, you're gonna suffer. You have
Okay,
you
so
obtain.
listen,
Hold up,
listen to what I'm listen to what I
wait. I let you go. Talk. Don't cut me. Sin
uh
and law stands in the same category because once they obtained the knowledge of sin, a law was put in place and then suffering began. So that's why when they come cup the new covenant um displaces the old covenant, which saying when Jesus does return or who got new returns, it's to do away with the law, and the law which is a covering of sin or a knowledge of sin. Sin is actually a term for math, and in math it's the same word. So suffering only occurs because of law.
okay.
No, go back to the part where you. was going to interject.
How could I say, how could I be held accountable to suffering by sin if I do not know what sin is? If I had not had the knowledge of good and evil, how could I be considered a sinner? See, the thing about it, that's why Moses blamed God. When Eve ate the apple, and then when Adam ate the apple, that's when Eve was punished. Okay,
They were both punished.
no, it happened in this sequence. Eve ate the apple first, and then when Adam ate the apple, that's when Eve was punished. Okay, so the thing is, I do not know what sin is. There has to be
You-
a truth. Listen, there has to be a truth, a purity, a sense in me in connection to my God that allows me to know beyond the fact of having knowledge of good and evil, whether I'm doing something right or wrong. But not you cannot condemn me and not call me a sinner as an adult because I have not the knowledge of good and evil, right?
Law.
But the
Because
thing about it, listen, the thing about it, you can think about it like a child.
I was just gonna say
If
that.
a
Law. You think about it like a child. A child in the garden of the home. A child is free because they have no knowledge of law. They have no knowledge of what's right and wrong. Once they have a knowledge that there is a law in the house, do not touch this, do not touch that. That's where right and wrong comes in. Do not move.
but you to say that Abigail, it sounds like at some point that you're saying if there was not law, which I understand, I can comprehend what you mean. If there was not law, there would not be sin.
There would not be suffering.
But if there were not suffering, would there be sin?
Same thing. If there was no suffering, there's no need for law. That's what heaven is about. If that's what there would be no need for time, the 24 elders. There would not be no need for an entity that rises and sets as what is said in Revelation. There's going to be no need for the sun because law is no longer in existence. The law of time, there's going to be no need for time. Time is a sequence of law. There's going to be no need for calendars. All of these things came into existence due to law. When
Okay,
and when Moses wrote those
so
first five books, everything about it from in the beginning was based on law.
so mathematically, how can I? So I will never age, I will never hurt, I will never get hungry, I would never want for things that I shouldn't have. I may not have a desire to do what? Have sex. I may not have a desire to eat food. I may not have a desire to drink and become intoxicated on any level. I may not have a desire to do anything because I'm free from law. Meaning I'm I'm purely power. There's nothing else there. There's nothing but it's an energy and a power that is just that is just evers. It just evers. There's nothing else that it doesn't do anything or have anything. It doesn't feel anything. It doesn't think anything. It just is.
Just
That's like
is.
space.
Mm-hmm.
That's like space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
That's like light.
well, sort of. Um, but why? And in a sense, Abigail, would I want to live a life like it
With no pain and no suffering.
with no mind, with no consciousness, with no ability to
Well, why do you
feel,
think you have no
no
consciousness?
ability. Listen, no ability to love, no ability
Why do
to
you think
like, no ability to
you
be
know the
happy, no
light
ability to be
the
joyful,
light
no
is
ability to be
light is consciousness. Light is consciousness.
light
And
is
light,
consciousness.
yes, when that sun shines and it's that
Light
light is
is
shining on you right now, the consciousness of love
I can understand
feeds
what
the
you're saying. Yeah.
trees. Hold up, feeds the trees and feeds the soil. That the light um when you are sick, you need that light to for healing. They want to call it vitamin D, but it's a conscious state that moves through you to heal you. So it's not a point of no consciousness. If once we
It's not just healing, Abigail. It's it is healing because light can be used as a glue to keep things together.
no,
It's
we're
also
staying on the subject of what you're saying about light not having consciousness, or this
it's
that
I didn't
state.
say it
Wait,
didn't
that
have I
state.
said
Wait,
I
that state of no
you're
suffering.
putting words in my mouth. You're putting
No,
words in my
well,
mouth.
let me.
Okay. Yes, you
I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm trying to
hold on for a minute. Hold
rephrase.
on. Hold on. Hold on.
All right. Okay, so it's not me putting words in his mouth, it's me rephrasing it based on the context of what he gave it to me as. So, in my thoughts, consciousness, light is conscience. Light has just what the word says, soul. The sun itself is entitled soul, SOL, and that consciousness gives healing, but the, as a matter of fact, that's the reason why they would do things to cover up the atmosphere to keep the light from shining on us. Now, when eternity comes into play, when you're transitioning in your state of transitioning from this flesh um happens, you're going to be primarily or solely light. Now his phone got disconnected, but it was a good build having him on there. And again, I wasn't putting words. I can't do that. I can't put words in anybody's mouth. If I did, if I had the ability to do that, oh boy. But I'm glad to do this live and have a hold on. I'm trying to add him back in. Just give me a moment. Because that does happen when your phone disconnects. It takes you off of the live when you have to answer a phone call. So hopefully he will return because it's only two people that I can have good bills, if that's y'all what that's what y'all call it, good bills with, and that's Son and Mr. Smith. And it's not that I can't have it with anybody else, but I'm not here to debate on truth. Truth cannot be debated. We can give our perspectives and opinions, and at the end of the day, the truth is still the truth. And your truth may be different from my truth, but if it's true, then hey, hey. And I picked this topic before he started because I was listening in at OSM Vision. And, usually when I put my thoughts in the chat over there at OSM, it's two times that the uh, teacher said that I was regurgitating, and that's not true. A regurgitator is a person that does exactly what they do over there at OSM. Every word that has been given by Dr. Malachi Z. York is being regurgitated um, when he gave the key for you to be able to tell your own truth, to tell the truth that owns you. So, greater light, and I'm gonna close off again with these words. My mind is God's mind. I'm always reflecting divine wisdom and divine intelligence. My brain symbolizes the capacity to think wisely and spiritually. God's ideas unfold within my mind in perfect sequence. I am always poised. I finally got to that point, poised, balanced, serene, and calm, because I know God has provided the perfect